You're listening to the Everyday is a New Day show. Inspirational conversations with movers and shakers about moving forward and choosing to embrace a positive outlook. Now, here's your host, Kim O'Neill.
Welcome. My name's Kim O'Neill, and I'm a twice certified transformational coach, Reiki master, best-selling author, podcast host, former crime analyst, and big believer in learning from everything so you can confidently move forward in life. You can join us for the live shows most Wednesdays on Facebook at 6 p.m. Pacific time. And now, here's today's newest awesome guest. With that said, I want to go ahead and share with you Sharon Bowes. And it says Sharon Stanbury on the screen, but she is Sharon Bowes. Welcome, Sharon.
Hi, thanks. Welcome.
Well, Sharon, okay, so how I like to get started with this is to go ahead and read everyone a little bit of your background by reading your bio, and then we'll get into some of the questions. So how does that sound?
Sounds awesome. Looking forward to it.
Okay, awesome. So Sharon Bowes is an inspirational coach who understands how to be in partnership with others using the power of the feminine in harmony with the power of the masculine. She helps radical business thinkers empower each other together in partnership to predictably achieve innovative results. Big dreams require many people working together, flowing through the changes using heart-centric, values-based practices. Emerging economic realities and the new generation entering the business world are making changes to the way we all work together. And that is just a little bit of what Sharon is about and what she does. So, Sharon, the first thing I want to do, because I definitely see, and I've known this since the first time we ever connected, is that you and I have a lot in common with that whole bridging the gap between the head and the heart and the workplace, and we're more than just what we do and all of that. And that's one of the things I think is really so cool about you and what you do and what you're bringing to workplaces and teams. And so would you share with us, how did you get inspired to start doing what you do?
So the biggest inspiration was actually a question. So a question from a colleague of mine, a coworker. So we were in the midst of doing a workshop together, a facilitated workshop with 70 trades workers at a municipality. And there were 5 of us, coaches, that were helping. So we were working together. We were working the room, we were working the scenario, we were working the timing, we were working in harmony. It was really, really successful and really, really cool. And at the end of the session, one of the fellow coaches came up to me and he said, "Wow, that was the most fun. That was the best experience I've had in partnership, in having everybody flow together." And he said, "Oh my God, would this not be fabulous to actually create that on purpose?"
And did you know at the time what you were actually doing? Or was it just kind of one of these things that happened and you realized, oh my gosh, I want to do more of this?
Kind of at the time, I set things up because I was the head coach of the team.
Okay.
And so I set the team up and I set the business sponsor up and I set up the room and the structure and all the rest of the pieces. But so many times it doesn't always gel. So in this case, it did. So then when he asked me that question, I'm going, wow, yeah, wouldn't that be such a delight? Can we consciously create a culture that is fun and uplifting and enjoyable and actually inspires innovative thinking? Because that's what we were trying to do here.
Okay.
Because we asked a single powerful question: what would it take to be the best at, what they were working on?
Okay.
And it's like that one powerful question was such a good motivator. So setting all of that up. And then I realized, okay, not only that, but I actually coached the fellow coaches on what needed to be done. We set up parts. We set up roles and responsibilities. We were all clear on what we were doing, what we were achieving. We had the business sponsor aligned, and he did a phenomenal lead-in speech that I pretty much wrote for him, but, allowed him to, he did his own thing with it as well. And then we just flowed together. The energy was incredible. So I kind of sort of set it up in advance, but I didn't know consciously what I was doing. I was just doing it,
Yeah, I do know. That's exciting. Isn't it fun when like all of a sudden you're in a situation where your gifts really get to shine and then you go, oh my gosh, I want to do more of this because you see the positive impact it's having.
Yeah. And at the same time, things were shifting globally. And I was looking at, I was doing a course on partnership at the same time, which was really cool. And I'd been a management consultant for quite a few years by that point. And I was looking at where is business going? What is the strategic direction of corporations globally? What's happening economically on our front? And realizing that everything was broken and or breaking down globally, economically. Finding a lot of support for that theory that I had in my head and started talking about it to different people, realizing, we're really in a bad shape. And the reason for that is that we were transitioning from an information age to the next age. And what would be the competitive differentiator? What would be the place where people would shine, where organizations and businesses would grow? What would be the key leading factor? And you started to see some organizations that were pushing the boundaries and they were succeeding brilliantly. And their key linchpin for their success was innovative thinking.
Okay.
And then I looked at, well, I'm sitting in these corporations and we're having these meetings and nobody's happy in the meeting. The meeting has no purpose. It's got no energy. As a matter of fact, afterwards, everybody's bitching and complaining about all kinds of stuff, right? You've been in the same culture. Mm-hmm. You get it. So like, how on earth would innovative thinking be generated from that kind of place? And then I looked at the example that I had of how we created innovative thinking with a group of people. Wow. Wouldn't it be powerful to see that happen on a regular basis? And is that the answer? Do we need to shift to something different? Because the current business practices of the day were creating toxic cultures.
Ooh. Okay. How would you define the result that people get out of having those innovative cultures? What's the result they get?
The results is new.
New what?
Right? Something.
Yeah, but new what? Like,
could be new products, could be new services, could be new direction. It could be a transformation of the organization from one type of business to another type of business. Innovative thinking is what's going to blow open this whole dynamic, because cost cutting, we're already at the bone.
Yeah.
What do you do beyond that? What do you do after? Restructuring and reorganizing, you're already at like ground zero.
Right.
How are you now going to do it? You're going to have one person running the entire corporation that 9,000 people ran? That's not going to work. So how do you get those 9,000 people engaged and thinking innovatively about how do we be the best we can be? Like that powerful question that we asked this group of people is, what would it take to be the excellence that we're looking to be?
Go ahead.
You can see it's quite challenging when you think about toxic cultures, and how do you take a toxic culture and make that happen? A place where people are numbers, they're employees, they're not George or Harry or Sheila or Jane. They're numbers. They are their roles, their position, They're defined as in a very square little box. That, this is who you are on, and this is who you are. You have no input or say into that definition for the most part. And so, you get hired to do it, perform a certain set of tasks. You have a certain set of responsibilities. Does that allow you the freedom to choose, to innovate, to suggest, to, bring forth new ideas?
Yeah.
Usually not, right?
What I love about what you're talking about is I can see how useful this is. And I know we've got a lot of people today who also get this, but some organizations are still struggling to see the benefit to allowing themselves to step into an innovative question like that, because they may be thinking that, oh, we have this challenge, so let's just keep detracting, right? And like you said, downsizing, right? Or cutting the budget, versus being innovative and allowing things to shift in a way so they can have that successful restructuring and continue to grow as the economy grows or something of that sort. And is that along the lines of what you're describing?
Yeah. And when you think about it, it's a scary place.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
It's a very scary place for businesses to put the input into their future direction, their strategic organizational structure, into the hands of their workers, because they don't know.
Right. Well, and I think also what makes it scary is because as you're talking about it, it sounds like, you're helping when a company can step into that innovative space, they're starting to add more life and more color and more of that freedom and flow, versus what may have been a very rigid, structured, in a box, black and white, very little room for gray even world. And I think the direction that might be helpful for us to go in is in many ways that totally serves a purpose, having that structure and that foundation, right? Yeah. And people are fearful of I'm going to lose control if I allow more freedom. So talk about that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And that's the scary place, right?
Yeah.
Is the fear of loss of control. And you're right. The way the practices currently work for many businesses still works and still serves the purpose it's meant to serve, and it's not bad, right? There's no judgment on any of this, and it's not good to be more innovative. It's just very likely that the competitive differentiator for each organization is going to lie in innovative thinking of some kind. And many organizations are chasing after artificial intelligence to bring in that innovation.
Okay.
And innovative thinking. And what they're really doing is replacing brains, right? They're replacing brains with productive robot workers who are going to do the mindless things that need to be done. So then where does that leave the workers and their intelligence and their brightness? And how do you then take that and really tap into it as a leader? How do you find that brilliance? Because everybody is brilliant in their own way. Everybody has their own absolutely amazing contribution that they can make. There's a reason you hired them in the first place. There's a reason that you brought them into the business. And, do you just let everybody go and bring in robot workers? How innovative is that in terms of the growth and development of your organization? There's still a place for that. But the challenge is control. And one of the practices of the past is the tightening of controls.
Okay.
And if you look at something like, say, the internet, how controlled is information on the internet?
I think it depends who you're talking to, but what are your thoughts on that?
So it is, anybody can say anything at any time, in any place, and get global attention.
Yeah.
Right? And it doesn't matter who you are.
Well, let me ask you, are there particular industries that you work with, or are you open to working with any industry?
So over my career, I think I've hit on and worked with about 60 different industries.
Wow. Okay. Do you have a particular industry that you like to work with most, or okay, you're open. Okay.
No. So what I'm good at is pattern recognition and pattern creation. There are common threads through all of those industries. There's common threads through human brain interactions. There's neuroscience. There's, the tools that deal with the chemistry of the brain. And they're common across any industry because they're about people. They're not about the industry. So I've been honing in on the people side of, and my consulting experience and the work that I did was in change management, trying to help groups and organizations through business changes and or system changes or decision-making changes, what have you. And it doesn't matter what level, what type of change, and it doesn't matter what industry. I've worked in private sector, I've worked in public sector. Again, it doesn't matter. There's some speed differences between private and public sector. That's probably about the only thing, but they're both challenged by constraints, red tape, toxic cultures, current practices, command and control structures. So you can open that up. And if you look at some examples, you can look at open source technology as well. Is that controlled? No. Is quantum computing controlled? Mm-mm. The instant you try and control quantum computing is the instant it reacts in a different way. So you've actually changed the variables and the parameters. So control isn't everything. It's not the be-all and the end-all. What if we let it become more uncontrolled, but we do it in structured ways with structured tools?
How would an organization do that?
Okay, so fundamentally, there are structures in an organization that define value or values, set a strategic plan, and then they're usually put on the shelf and 5 years later are looked at again. Okay. And everything in between those 5 years is, magic occurs. If we get the right thing right, we fund the right thing. We fund the things, but we don't check to see if the funding is based on the value that we're looking to achieve. And we don't measure and monitor that success over time. We don't track it. We don't govern it. We take things in different ways, which is governance by itself, but it's governance without structure.
So it sounds like maybe defining a plan and having a goal at the start, but then sort of forgetting about it as time goes on. And then eventually you're 5 years later down the road and maybe we've accomplished some things, but not all. Is that
right? Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that happens many, many times. And that's just one example of one tool set. There are many, many others that you can use to structure. So structure your changes and change resilience and the ability for people to have innovative conversations in safe groups in organizations, because you have to set up safe space. And that's in itself a structure. Setting up that safe space, having the business sponsor not only buy in and support it, but continue to walk the talk long after you're gone. So, because we did this same exercise with a different group in the organization, and as soon as we walked out of the room, the leader went and changed everything around.
Oh, yeah, that erodes trust really quickly. Yeah.
Like it happens, right? But the first one, that leader stuck with it for the next 10 years. And the level of success they were able to achieve as a team was phenomenal. Like in 6 months, they were able to double the amount of work that they were producing without hiring a single extra body.
Wow, that's okay. I bet a lot of people like hearing that. What message would you like to give leaders who are noticing that it's time for change and what they've already tried maybe isn't working, and maybe they're a little hesitant to do something new and would love some support? Like what message of support or advice could you give them to help them see the benefit of bringing in innovative change like you're talking about?
So the first thing is self-discovery. Every leader who's tackling this is tackling it from the existing point of view and their existing lenses. So do some soul searching, figure it out, and maybe get a coach or take some courses, but really, truly transformational courses that blow your mind. Take it apart and put it back together again. The ones that get you into those really challenging questions.
Yeah.
So this is some of the work that I do. But there's many, many, many other sources of it in the world today as well. There's books, read books. But mostly the only way to find a blind spot that you have as a leader is to listen. So learn to listen. Learn a new skill called listening. And it's not just listening on the surface. This is head-based listening, heart-based listening, and soul-based listening. There's different levels of listening. And start having listening conversations. Right? And one of the...
Yeah, tell us more about the listening conversations. What would that look like?
Yeah, where we have one mouth and two ears, most of us, right? So talk to your team in that proportion, right? Where you're listening more often than you're talking. And then there's surface listening. So there's surface listening where you're listening to the words the person is saying, and you're responding and reacting to the words that they're saying. They may be saying, I just want to quit. They may be saying, I think you're crazy. They may be saying some words that this change will never work. But there's something underneath that, right? Yeah. It's not just about listening to the words. It's about listening to the body posture. It's about listening to the underlying reasons why they would be saying that. Well, the subtext. And so ask clarifying questions. Probe for additional information, rephrase what the person is saying in different words to clarify, to really understand what they're saying at that deeper level.
That's a great tip, Sharon.
It's huge. It's huge for leaders trying to go into this.
Have you had any leaders say, what, I don't need to do any personal transformational work, or what do you mean I need to be a better listener? What kinds of responses do you get to that?
Well, my main response, the same guy that asked me that question, is his response to that kind of thing is always about, and thank you, Aaliyah, I'll get back to you in just a second. Is always about, so how's that working for you now?
There you go. That's got the burn in there, the rub.
So it's like, okay, cool. How's that working for you now?
Oh my goodness. Okay, let's take a look at Aaliyah's question here. She is asking, does Sharon have any feedback on how to find patience and keep yourself from being frustrated when you are not being heard? That's a great question, Aaliyah. What are your thoughts, Sharon?
That's an awesome question, Aaliyah. And it's a challenge, and I get it. But one of the things when you're not being heard is to take it back to listening again. Why are you not being heard? What is it that person is not saying or is hidden in underneath their words? Mm-hmm. What are they looking for? Are they looking for some kind of appreciation from you, some kind of justification, some kind of validation of what they're saying. Because oftentimes, if you feel that you're not being heard, the other person is not being heard either. And they're equally frustrated, and they're looking at you for the same thing. They're looking at you for some kind of acknowledgement of what they're saying. And if you acknowledge them first, doesn't matter first or second or third, no one wins this game. So if you're appreciate them, say, I hear this from you. Is this correct? Do the clarifying questions. And I get that you may be frustrated, but it's not about you at that point. So really start thinking about the conversation, what you're having, and why you need to be heard and be understood by this other person. What's your agenda? Is it a hidden agenda? Is it one of your blind spots? But really find out from them. Be curious. Switch frustration to curiosity in terms of figuring out what's the best approach to take with this person, because obviously they're being frustrated by me and I'm being frustrated by them. So what's the common ground we can get to so that we can have that conversation together?
That is a great tip, Sharon. Aaliyah, let us know in the comments if that provides some insight into how you might be able to approach your situation. And if you have any other questions, feel free to let us know about those as well. Sharon, what's the kind of response that you've noticed from leaders after they've started to do some of that inner transformational work and take a different approach to listening? What kind of responses do you get from them?
Well, one of the first responses is they start doing it, practicing it, and people are confused. People look at them with suspicion, and they're like, oh, what are you about, right? Yeah, I've never seen this side of you. And sometimes they'll just respond positively, but others will think that there's a hidden knife in there because you've done it before to them. Right? So think about what you're generating in terms of the reactions that you're getting and why you're getting those reactions before you decide to ditch what you just learned and start over again.
I love that. That is excellent. That's great to hear. Okay. And Aaliyah, thank you for saying that was helpful. That's awesome. That's good to hear. So Sharon, now something that we touched on just very briefly earlier is you were talking about, shifting from that head space to a heart space to a soul space. And that's one of the things that I love about, that you incorporate into the work that you're doing. And I know you've done more work beyond your coaching teams. And so will you share with us a little bit more about like how are you incorporating that heart space and soul space into the work that you do?
Yeah, so it started quite a few years ago when I did some training in landmark education in Theory U, Peter Senge, some of the change management gurus, the PAX programs and partnership works, and learned a lot about that there's a difference. There's a difference between listening with your head. There's the always already listening state that most of us are in, to listen to be right, listen to be justified, listen to validate what we're doing, and in the back of our mind, we're listening in order to respond. So we're hearing and we're crafting our response at the same time. So it's the stop doing that and learn to just listen in the first place. Then there's that sense of curiosity. Turn that curiosity dial up. That curiosity dial, at the same time, throw in some compassion and generosity. So it's like baking a recipe of cookies, right? So you turn up the temperature, right, on curiosity, At the same time, you're mixing up your compassion and your generosity, right? Be generous to give the other person voice and a space to express themselves, right? That's your generosity, right? And be compassionate that there's got to be a good reason why they're saying what they're saying.
Okay.
Okay? So there's got to be a good reason why they're saying what they're saying. There's got to be a good reason why they're getting all worked up about it. There's got to be something that's triggered them.
Right.
So be curious about it, but be compassionate that maybe it's something not to do with you or work at all. Maybe it's a baby at home who's colicky and has kept them up all night, and they're here at their least best, trying to get through the day. And you've just thrown something in their face and they're reacting.
Right.
Right? So we all go through all kinds of different scenarios, but listen, the compassion is the listening from the heart. Right? And that's when you can really get down to hearing what's the need that this person is expressing, that they're not getting enough of, that they're not getting met. And what are you able to provide to get that need met so that they can feel heard and they can feel understood? And that comes from that compassion, that and that generosity of listening in a new way with that curiosity dial turned up.
And this is so important. So will you connect the dots for why that's important for leaders who are in the process of creating change in their organization? Why does it matter for them to start listening more from that heart space?
Because you're trying to generate, on the other side, innovative thinking. If you just tell a person what they're supposed to be doing and when and how, are you going to get creativity?
Yeah.
Probably not. The thing is that when you actually listen and you listen in these different ways, suddenly people come to you and say, I was thinking about that. And I was thinking about that conversation we just had. And I had an idea about that. Would I be okay to share it with you?
Yeah.
Right? That's what you're looking for. That as a leader looking for innovative thinking, that's what you're seeking. If you're not looking for innovative thinking, don't do this.
Right, exactly right. Well, it helps foster more of that safe space so that people know they can come to you and share their ideas. Because like you said, they hired them for a reason in the first place. And you actually could get more than what you hired them for if there's an environment for them to feel like they can be open and share and help the company get through those challenging times by, the new stuff that comes through. Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. Like we asked the trades workers how they could be more excellent. First thing they said to us is, we're driving around in our vehicles all day long. We're crossing the river 3 times during the same day. Why don't you put a shop on the south side of the city? Right? And they know, because they know what's right. They know, they're the ones experiencing it. And, when we talk to the police officers about using yet another tool, an electronic device on the belts of their pants, and they're saying, well, the belts are full. I got no room to put anything more on there. Where should I put it? Right. I'm like, okay, right, of course. Let's listen.
Yeah.
Right? And the workers that are out in the field and they're trying to do an assessment on whether a crop is good or not, and we're asking them to take cellular devices in a time when there wasn't cell service everywhere.
Oh, gee.
I'm like, right? Okay, so you got to listen. You got to understand. If you don't, you're not going to get the results you're looking to achieve.
And what about that leader or supervisor that might be more inclined to say, oh, well, you're just complaining. You're just giving me excuses where I'm trying to create innovative change, but you're telling me the reasons why it won't work.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that?
Exactly. So what are you doing? I'm going to ask the leader, well, what are you doing? You're blocking. You're blocking feedback. You're blocking input.
So it's not necessarily about they have to implement every idea, but be open to hearing the ideas for, because it's kind of like you can't, there's this whole thing about clarity through contrast. The contrast is what's not working right, so you can gain the clarity of what will work right. So I think that it might be common for someone to think, well, I already know what's not going right. But when you talk to those employees, you're going to get more of those specifics on what's not working right, which is going to help create more of that clarity of what will go right. So,
and think about it. The always already listening is I'm right.
Say that again.
Always already listening. Everybody's always already listening to be right. Okay? So if you are one of those with the disease to be right, then you will always be right. But you won't get the results you're looking for.
It's very true.
You're not going to create innovative thinking energy. You're not going to include and involve other brains into the thinking, and you may as well just do it all yourself.
Right.
And do you really want to, as a leader, do it all yourself? Because, that's what you're a leader for. You're a leader for using the resources, the team energy that you have at your disposal to get more done than you could possibly ever do by yourself.
Right. What's the point of being in a partnership if you're just going to do it all anyway?
Exactly, right?
Yes.
And so if you have to be right, then you probably are damaging your career, your progression, your reputation, the organization, and your team.
Sharon, you're sharing so many good tips. Just want to make sure we're able to talk about some of the other awesome things that you're doing. So I'm going to shift gears here. And will you share with us, I know that this year you've launched an app and you have more along those lines that's coming out. So will you start to, help us understand how did you and why did you want to create an app? What's that about?
Well, you started it. Okay, so be clear on this one, okay? Because you generated the idea, and you created a book, with guided inspiration, guided inspiration. And when we were on the conversation on the call about that, I said, well, how about creating an app that gives you one a day, or 2 or 3, or 10 or 20 different ones. And then you gave me the permission to go ahead and do it. So I did.
Didn't need my permission, but I'm glad you were inspired by it.
And I expanded it. And because the one thing that happens, especially with leaders and also with team members, is that we lose our motivation. And we lose sight of empowerment. We don't feel empowered in our lives to be creative. And so I thought, let's go beyond motivation and inspirational sayings, which have no meat and potatoes to them. And let's actually deliver an empowerment moment, something that has steps, or something that has, some real tips to take along. And I thought, what would help to make them inspiring is to bring videos or pictures, images from nature. And I'm a photographer, so I used videos or pictures from nature that I had. And I thought, okay, and then I want to get input from others who are authors or speakers or have a voice of their own like you. And I took your poem, and we took that and we put the pictures to the words that you spoke. And then I added music, because music is that formula in the recipe that connects people.
Yeah.
Right? And
it
so
triggers like an emotional response and connection to it. Yeah.
And if you're going to hear from the heart, you have to give from the heart. And the music is from the heart and connects with the heart. And so I thought, let's create an app, and that's just daily guided empowerment moments where people can choose whichever one is applying for them today. And so we created the one that you created, which is let that which. Let that which doesn't serve your purpose go. So letting go is one of the key leadership skills required in innovative thinking, because you got to let go of who you are. It's not about you, right? Yeah. Think about it. You know the words, right?
I don't have that up in front of me, but yes.
Let that which go so that you can be all that you can be. And what you bring forth and what you bring out in the people on your team is going to generate increased success in your reputation and your value, because you're going to have a team in the organization that everybody wants to be a part of.
Yeah. You know what? I love that you were connecting the dots with that about letting it go and thinking that it's about you, because if anyone's struggling with that, here's how I can see, here's just an alternative perspective, is that let's say you start a business that you're in, something that you're really passionate about, you're really inspired by, and you feel very attached to it in a certain way. And then now you're working with other people and you're having some challenges, and you may think, what? I have to let it go from me? No, it's part of me. But when you let it go and let it start to take on a life of its own, that's actually then going to further serve your purpose, which eventually is actually also going to serve you and give right back to you. And so it's kind of like allowing yourself to dream up that vision, but then allow it to be supported by all the other people. They're going to come help and feed into it and all of that. So if that
just
helps
anybody. Just like I took the inspiration from you and I grew it.
And so tell everyone what the name of your app is called.
So it's called Your Daily Gem, which stands for GEM, stands for Guided Empowerment Moment. And it's nice. Your Daily Gem, and then you can find it on Google Play. Right now it's $4.50. There's 5 gems on it. Yours, plus a couple others that I've created, and there'll be 10 in total in the price app, in the paid app, and then anybody is invited to create their own guided empowerment moment on the app and submit it. And then I can publish it for a cost, and they get to share the revenue that I get from that.
That's exciting, Sharon. So
I know. It's not about me. It's not about my business. It's not about me making mega bucks, and I'm not going to make mega bucks from $4.50 an app sale. $4.50 Canadian. An app sale. I'm not going to make mega bucks from it. And that's not its purpose. Its purpose is to invite people to get that moment of motivation and inspiration that they need to go through that meeting, that a challenging conversation that they're having with a challenging employee, that to figure out how to work with their team in new ways, to listen from a new place, to make sure that they're in good shape first before they start to go for the day together.
Nice. Well, I love it. I think it's such a fun and really innovative idea that you've created this little handy tool that people can simply download on their phone. And like you said, like maybe they're going into a meeting and they want some quick inspiration. What a great way to be able to connect with that. So that's super exciting. And you now have another app coming out. Is that correct?
Yeah. So there's some interesting things that have happened since we last talked. And I've created a concept called a skill shop. And I created this concept a while back, and a friend of mine and I put it together, and we created like an in-person workshop, but it's all about skill, learning skill, and leadership skills. And what we figured out at the time is that it's great to go away and learn a new skill. But how do you then take it back into that work environment and own it? How do you be it? How do you be that new practice, that new innovative thinker, that new generous, compassionate, caring leader? How do you sustain that? It's really, really hard. And learning it in your head is insufficient to actually making that work. And so one of the things I was thinking about is I'm going to tie together my skill shop with a retreat.
Oh, how fun!
I know. Because the concept of a retreat is that's when you can take and embed it into your soul energy. This is where you can actually learn at that deeper embodiment level, where you participate in something that is probably outside of your comfort zone, ideally. Ideally way outside your comfort zone, but some people will be more hesitant than others. And so I created a design your own retreat app. So what happens is that people come, and I've done it for the Canadian Rocky Mountains where I live, because I'm most familiar with it, and I know the tour companies here. I've hooked up with the tour company, and you can book whatever day activity that you want to book for each of the 3 days of the retreat, the design your own retreat. Book your own, do the horseback riding trail, or do the whitewater rafting, or do the the guided tour bus for the day. When you're out in nature, I'm going to give you questions. I'm going to give you questions for each day of the 3 days to look for and learn from the environment that you're in, because you're going to see bears. You probably don't see those in cities. You're going to see, differences in the environment. You're going to learn from the rocks and the mountains around you. You're going to learn something new from the weather, whether it's cold, freezing cold and great skiing weather, or whether it's bright summer days and beautiful sunshine. You're going to learn something from everything that you're doing. And then we have a conversation about that every evening.
This is very innovative. That I want to ask some questions that might sound stupid, but I'm just trying to understand.
Totally.
So is this a self-guided retreat that's also supported with the app? Or is this a retreat with other people that people are signing up for?
However you want to do it.
Oh my goodness. Okay, what is the name of the app, or where people can find out more information about that?
So right now I don't have that published, but it will be published on my website at goingforvalue.com. Once the app is finalized. It's not even in testing yet, so it's still in design. So it'll probably be another 2 to 3 months before the big announcement comes out. But definitely looking at in January getting it out there for people to sign up for, because I want to start creating these events to happen starting in June next year.
Very exciting. And will they be available only in Canada or beyond Canada as well?
Globally.
Globally. Okay.
There are visitors come here every year from all over the world. So it's not a place that's unusual for international visitors to visit. And there's a lot of people who would come here anyways. I've personally taken most of my vacations for the past 25 years as learning vacations, opportunities to learn something. And so having a course and a retreat as part of my vacation journey would be, to me, an added value.
I agree.
On top of what I'm seeing anyways. And so, so then in the Design Your Own Retreat app, you'll be able to create your own lessons from the Ecoverse, which is what I've been using for a while now. I've been publishing lessons from the Ecoverse with photographs with captions. And the captions are, what did I learn from this photograph?
For anyone who's wondering what an Ecoverse is, can you define that for them?
Yeah, so it's thinking from the broader perspective of an ecology versus ego-based thinking. So what we've been talking about in terms of listening conversations is get out of your own head, get out of your own way, start being not you, about be about the team, be about the environment that you're in, be about the ecology, right? And so eco-based thinking is what we all need to shift to if we're going to create innovative thinking, right?
I love that.
And so verse comes from conversation. So ecological conversation, I've defined as Ecoverse.
I love that. I love the Ecoverse, and I love the little cat I hear in the background as well.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, she's constantly hungry, and then she doesn't eat what I know. She's a poor baby.
I had to acknowledge her. So
yeah, she's there.
Well, Sharon. Okay, so tell us more about. So you mentioned your website. Go ahead and mention your website again for how people can connect with you.
Yeah, it's going4value.com, and the 4 is the number 4.
Okay. And you work with individuals and teams, correct?
I do. Yes.
Okay.
And I have some canned products, so you can learn even if I'm not there. So there's a whole online interactive seminar series available, and these are about the 7 business practices that we use commonly today that create those toxic environments, and ways that you can flip the switch and choose different responses.
Wow.
That enable you the power of choice, right? And allow you to create those conscious cultures in your work environment.
Sorry, that sounds actually like a really fantastic tool. Would you be open to sharing a link to that down in the comments when we're done?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, that sounds like a really good tool. Gosh. So, Sharon, as we come to a close here, do you have any parting words that you'd like to share with people? Because you are really in this space that, for some people, and we've already mentioned it, can be very scary. Change can be very, very scary. And the really cool thing is that we don't have to do it alone. And there are people like Sharon that if you are a leader working with a team, and maybe looking for some tools and support to be able to have successful change and growth, people like Sharon are here to support you with that. So do you have any final words or messages you'd like to add to this conversation?
Just of note is that my intention is to create joyful and fulfilling workplaces for everybody globally. Mm. Yeah, sure, I'll get some benefit from it too, but that's not the point. And my intention is for this to live long after me, which is why I'm pre-recording a lot of the lessons. Nice. So that people can access it on their own time with their own choice. Choice to me is a very high value. And I want people to be inspired and have choice in their direction and their career and their fulfillment of what their life's journey is all about.
Well, I think pretty much everyone would agree that they would like more joy in their work in some capacity. So that's fantastic. That's wonderful.
Yeah, and I'm not able to actually add to the chat. I'll send you the information.
That's okay. And it might have to be after we're done on Facebook.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Awesome.
Fantastic. Well, Sharon, thank you so much for being here today and sharing just some really cool tips. For those watching, whether you are live or on the replay, let us know what you're taking away down in the comments. And if you're on the replay, feel free to go ahead and let us know, #replay. And I love interacting with you even after the conversation. So Sharon, thank you so much for being here today. It was wonderful to talk and get to know what you're up to today.
As always, Kim, it's such a joy. It's such a pleasure. Thank you.
You're welcome. And remember that, Sharon touched on one of the biggest things about behind every day is a new day is that life does get challenging, but we always have choice. And so it's remembering that, especially when we're in the middle of those challenges, that, oh, that's right. What other choices are there here for me to add some innovation, add some color, add some more flow into the restriction that I might be experiencing. Every day is always a new day. Wherever you are today does not have to be where you are tomorrow. And I mean that both literally and metaphorically. And just always remember that there is always hope and that there is always help and people who are here to help bring more joy and more support and all of that back into your situation, whatever that may be. And with that said, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. You can go to KimO'NeillCoaching.com or the Everyday is a New Day show on Instagram as well and connect with me for more inspiration and hope. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Have a wonderful day. Bye, everybody.
And that's today's show. So, what are you taking away? Let me know down in the comments wherever you listened or watched today's episode, and connect with me on Facebook on the Everyday is a New Day show and coaching page, or visit KimO'NeillCoaching.com for more info. Remember, every day is always a new day. Wherever you are today does not have to be where you are tomorrow. There is always hope, and you will always be amazing. I'll see you next time.